In this video, we're going to talk about actually putting switch ports into VLANs to separate the layer 2 information from other ports so that we can separate our layer 2 broadcast domains and make our networks more scalable. As a review, once VLANs are created, membership is assigned at the port level. Layer 2 switch ports generally fall into 3 different categories. Access ports, which is one VLAN per port. We have trunk ports, which are multiple VLANs per port, and we have dynamic switch ports, which automatically choose trunk, ISL, then .1Q encapsulation, then access ports. So we'll talk about DTP when we get into trunking, but actually it does apply to access ports, to where if the other end of the link is not negotiating a trunk, it will default back to an access port. That's at least my understanding of it. So if you enter the no switch port command at the interface level, it turns a layer 2 port into a layer 3 routed port. At that point, it can have an IP address, an access list, stuff like that. So when we get into it, as an access port example, when you configure it on the routers, which is what I've already done, I've already configured router 1, routers 1 through 6 are already configured and ready to rock. Then what you would do is simply go to the interface that these devices connect to, and you would type in switch port mode access, and then the VLAN that they want to be a part of. So in this case, we're going to do switch 1, 2, 3, and 4, respectively, and put the ports into the VLANs that they need to be in. And the devices will have the ports. The routers will be on each one of these ports, so they'll be there and they'll be able to be pingable. Now other ports will just have random VLANs associated with them, and they won't actually have a port that will be pingable, if that makes sense. So an access port, in its easiest sense, is putting a port that will connect to a single device, such as a printer, a wireless access point, which can be a single access point or a single device. More commonly, it is normally a trunk port, because in most cases you're going to have an access point connecting to a switch, and then it will have multiple SSIDs and potentially multiple VLANs that it can forward traffic for. So in most cases, your access points will actually be configured as trunk ports configured to trunk multiple VLANs back to the switch, which when we get into setting up Wi-Fi, which there really is absolutely nothing to do, it's just with Wi-Fi, it's just some of the concepts that we'll go over briefly, so you guys have a refresher course on it. So what we'll do now is we'll actually go to each one of these switches and we'll put these ports into these VLANs so that we can actually talk to each device and go from there. So what we're going to do is I'm already on switch 1, so I'm going to pull up our console cable, which is right there. I'm going to slide this guy up, and on switch 1 I'm going to go to VLAN. I'm going to show you how to do this the easy way. The easiest way is use the interface range command. Interface range, and you type in fast ethernet 0/1 space comma space. I think you can even do space fast 0/8. Yep. And what this does is you can go into both ports at the same time, and you can say switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 10. Then you would exit out, and then you'd hit the up arrow a couple times, and then you just go back here and say 2 and 7, and hit the up arrow a couple times. Once this stuff is in here, it's pretty much going to be there, and this is going to be VLAN 60. Uh, 2 and 7, 60. And then last one is going to be 4 and 5. Now in this case, we can actually do Control E and then do a space and then 5. And then switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 20. I'm going to do show VLAN, and now we have ports 1 and 8 in VLAN 10, ports 4 and 6 in VLAN 20, and 2 and 7 in VLAN 60. So, switch 1 will now be able to have connectivity with other devices, but we don't have VLAN routing going, which will be down towards the end here when we get that situated, because we want to be able to get, because we're going to have, so in this case we have different routers on different switches. So for instance, if we wanted to put, here we did actually, let's minimize the ribbon here, and actually we can scoot this guy up down just a little bit here. We have on switch 1 we have R5 and R1 are in different subnets, are in different they're in different VLANs. So this guy is in VLAN 20. This guy's in VLAN 10. So they won't be able to talk to each other unless I implement some sort of routing and I configure an SVI to do that. But the problem is with it now, we have to get trunking to work and some other things to work, which is core layer 2. We're getting core layer 2 to work here, and then once we get core layer 2, then we'll be able to get inter-VLAN routing, and then we'll be able to ping between our devices, and then we'll be able to get redundancy in place, which will tweak this guy, I believe, a little bit. Yeah, it'll tweak the physical way that the device is configured, which when we get there, we'll get there and I'll explain how that works. And VRP is going to be just explaining how it works. So when we get there, that's how it'll look. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. I just wanted to you guys understand that even though they're on the same device, they're logically separated. So I could go to R1 and try to ping R5, but it's not going to work. There's no way for it to happen. So what will end up happening is I'll either configure one of these routers to be what they call an inter-VLAN router, so I'll have sub-interfaces configured, or what is most likely going to happen is HQ1 and HQ2, when we get to inter-VLAN routing, is I will do either an SVI like you see here, and I will have R1 to encapsulate the following VLANs below, so 10, 20, and 30, and then I'll have the other VLANs configured to using a switch VLAN. So I can do that and go from there. So that's probably what it's going to work as. You as a CCNP should know how to do both exceptionally well, and I'll demonstrate both. So you can actually have multiple places for traffic to route. It just depends on how it's going there, and you can do a trace route and then figure out where it's going to go based on the IP address. So as you can see, we have 10.30.30.7. Depending on how it's being routed, it'll determine how it's going to get there. So we have switch 1 configured in different access ports. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do VLAN 2. So let's we have switch 2, which is over here. Let's scroll this guy up just a little bit here. Switch 2 is going to have these guys, and then switch 2 will be in VLAN 20. So this guy will be in 20, so on and so forth. So we'll get over to switch 2 and get this finished up. So we're going to jump over to switch 2. Show VLAN. Make sure they're still there. They are. We're going to go to global config, and we're going to start with 20, 30, 40. So 20. I'm going to say interface fast Ethernet 0/2 is the only one in VLAN 20. So say switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 20, and then that puts that port in that. Actually, that's not true. We have to that port is not actually in that VLAN, so we have to actually trace that down. So this guy connection to that is port 4. So I apologize. Because port 2 wasn't coming up. So now they'll they'll both be there, but only port 4 will be actually reachable. So what I'm going to do is now it says 1 and 3. So exit out of here. Interface range fast 0/1 and 3 3 will be switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN, was that 30? 40. And exit out of here, and then we're going to do 5, 8, and 9. So switch port interface range fast 0/5, 8 through 9, and switch port mode access, switch port mode or access VLAN 30. Drop out of here, show VLAN, and we have 2 and 4, 5, 8, 9 or 2 and 4 are in 20, 5, 8, and 9 are in 40, and 1 and 9 are in 40. So, or 5, 8, 9 are in 30. Excuse me. So, jumping over to switch 3 to get that one configured, and then we'll just do a telnet into switch 4 from there to get that configured. Let's see, show VLAN, make sure everything is still there. Verification is going to be key if you don't want to mess things up. So we have switch 3, 2, 3, 10, 4, and 9 are in 50, and 10 and 11 are in 60. So we're going to go to config T, type in interface range fast 0/2 and 3. Oh. Yeah, because I have stack members on this guy. Switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 10. Then we have 4 and 9. Interface range fast 0/4. Fast Ethernet at 9. I always forget that 1/ on these guys. I do this in production too. I'll be like, what am I missing? And then I'll realize it. I'll be like, oh, okay. Switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 4 and 9 are in 50. And interface range fast 1/0/10 and 11. Switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN. VLAN is lost my place. 60. Somehow I lost line protocol to show IP interface brief. I won't be able to tell that into. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so we're gonna telnet into switch 4 and do the same thing. Alright, so we're gonna do switch 4 global config mode, and we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, and 4 are, wait, 1, 2, 4, and 6. Interface range fast 0/1, fast Ethernet /0/2, fast Ethernet 0/4, and fast Ethernet 0/6. Switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 50. Oh, and some reason it didn't take. Oh wait, 50. That's my mistake. And we're gonna do 3 and 5 are in 60. Interface range fast Ethernet 0/3 and 5. Switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 60. Show VLAN. And there's our ports. So we've successfully added ports to the VLANs. Next thing we're going to do is trunking, and I'll explain trunking and go from there. I hope this has been informative for you. I'd like to thank you for viewing.